everybody, it's Paige Evans and I have a new process video to share with you today. This was made for the April mood board girls and I love the rich purples and blues and greens and I thought it would work perfectly with my pick-me-up collection as well as a few other papers from my pink paisley collections. So I grabbed the colors of paper that went with the mood board and I'm going to start cutting the heart layers. This heart cut file can be found in my spring decor class at Big Picture Classes, and so I also created a square around it, a 12 by 12 square. I'm going to open up the transform tool and center everything. So I'm pressing those two icons in the center and that aligns everything to the middle at the top and the bottom and the left and right side. And then I'm going to grab all of the images, all of the hearts and the square, except for the largest heart, and move everything off of the cutting mat or this program. And then I'm going to send it to the machine and have the Cameo cut it out. I'm using a ratchet blade, and those are the settings, and then click send. So that's going to cut it out from white cardstock. Then I'm going to go back to the design and move the large heart out of the way and grab the square and the next biggest heart. And you don't need the square to be that big. It's going to cut the pattern paper into this square, so I just made it a little bit smaller, and then I centered everything once again and cut that from the purple pattern paper. So everything is the same in the settings. So I clicked send, and now I'm going back to the design, and I'm basically going to repeat that for every single heart. So I'm grabbing the next heart, and then I'm going to shrink the square a little bit and go to the transform tool and align it, clicking those two center buttons, and then sending it to the machine. And that's going to cut it from pattern paper. And here I go, doing the next layer, the next layer, the next layer of these hearts. Again, I'm always shrinking the square so that it cuts the paper a little bit smaller every time. It'll just make things easier when you're gluing everything together with foam adhesive. So here comes the last little heart, and then I decided that I wanted some more texture around the white cardstock heart, and so I used a paper piercer and pierced a hole about every 1/4 inch all the way around. I'm going to use purple variegated thread that matches the purple pattern paper that is the next layer, and I really love the ombre effect. And I'm going to do a chain stitch. So I'm starting in the back, making a loop, going down through that same hole, but not pulling it all the way, and then going up through the next hole and up through the loop. Going down through the same hole, holding a loop in place with my finger, and then bringing the needle up through the next hole through that loop, bringing the needle down through that hole and up through the loop. So you're basically connecting loops together to create a chain stitch. And I love how this looks. It adds a lot of texture and helps define the edge. So I'm finishing it up. I'll drop the needle back through and then tie a knot on the back and trim the excess with some scissors. And then I can continue on with the rest of the layout. Some of these ends were sticking out, so I just used a little bit of adhesive to tape them back. So now I've got all of my heart layers made from pattern papers, and I am going to attach them all together using foam squares. I love these squares because they're not very dimensional. They are dimensional, but they're not too thick, so this layout will still be able to fit into a regular page protector. And I'm basically just eyeballing the hearts and all the layers together. I was sticking the thread back behind with those scissors, if you saw me do that. And I'll add the next layer with more foam squares, the next layer with foam squares, and repeat that until all of the hearts are layered together. Again, I'm just eyeballing it. Technically, you could just cut all the hearts from the center of a 12 by 12 pattern paper and align all the whole sheets, but that's kind of a waste of paper. I mean, at least now I'll have some of the pattern paper left when I made the squares smaller when I cut them out. Then I'm placing the foam adhesive around the heart edge, and I've already chosen the pattern papers when I was cutting the hearts. And then for this last step, backing the heart with this pattern paper. It's an aqua zigzag striped pattern paper. For my Oh My Heart collection, I used papers from all my collections except for Fancy Free, the first one. And here I just trimmed out a piece of pattern paper. I just eyeballed it to make sure it would fit behind that last open heart. So these are the photos. One is rectangle and one is square, and then I placed it in between two of the layers, and I created a title. It says San Jose, California. I think that's kind of the subtitle because it's the location. The actual title is going to be Wow. And then it was time to embellish, so I'm going to use only my Pick Me Up collection. So I tucked some of the flower sequins from the haberdashery kit into the layers, and now I'm using the rub-ons, and rub-ons are so permanent, which kind of scares me. So to help turn them into embellishments, I applied them onto white cardstock and then fussy cut them out, and that way they're more like die cuts, so I can figure out the placement. If I change my mind, I can easily pick it up and put it exactly where I want it. So this is something that you can do with rub-ons. You can do it with stamping or stickers. And I love doing this technique because then it makes these icons and images more versatile and usable and not as permanent. And I'm kind of just playing with these embellishments, creating basically texture and interest with all the different kinds of embellishments in Pick Me Up. There are cardstock stickers, chipboard stickers, puffy stickers, and a variety of moths, flowers, and hearts. And it was just all these things that I love to go along with this theme of hearts and love and flowers. To add even more texture around the edge, I machine stitched another heart all the way around. And then the papers got really thick in these corners, and so I just used some scissors and trimmed around these bottom parts. I don't know why. It's not really necessary, but it just felt so thick. I just trimmed it. Might as well. Now I'm going to write my journaling. This is an inner piece from a frame from the Ephemera Die Cuts pack, so don't throw away anything. You can always find a use for even the scraps. Wrote my journaling with a pencil first, and then went over it with a .03 black precision pen. The layout didn't feel finished yet, so what I did is I die cut my flower frame from textured white cardstock, and this took me a really long time to figure out how I wanted to place these flowers. I like the way this looks, with the flowers on the top right corner, but it was kind of distracting. It was kind of taking away from the heart. And so what I ended up doing is trimming 4 pieces of the flower frame and adhering 1 to every edge of the layout. And then I machine stitched them in place to make them stay there permanently and also add more texture. Since I'd already machine stitched around the heart, I thought adding more machine stitching would make it more cohesive. So I trimmed the thread ends and ruffled up the edges to create more texture and dimension and shadows. And that, my friends, is the finished layout. So I hope you are inspired by this layout in some way, and I hope you join the Mood Board girls to create a layout. The mood boards are always super inspiring and get your creative juices flowing. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon.